Now here's Clark again. Oh, through again he goes. He's got Tutu with him. It's Ioane, in fact. Enrico Ioane.
Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to the RUCK podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the RUCK, Stacey, so thanks for joining us for another episode. We are joined today by a RUCK regular and a stalwart of the Auckland club rugby scene, Roger. Rog, mate, thanks for jumping on us.
Talofa.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been a bit busy, but glad to hear last week you were on the Cam Schuster podcast holding the fort for us and giving your tips out, which is good to hear. So glad to be back on the RUCK this week. So before we get started, I'll just take care of some of our housekeeping stuff. We've got a website, www.weswesnet.com, and don't forget to click the support us button on the page to keep the content flowing. And we've also got some exclusive content for some of our supporters, so there's some additional benefits there, as well as another RUCK regular, Joey. A lot of his articles on there, so I'll give that a mention. You can follow the RUCK on X it's called now, and Facebook. So give us a follow and give us a like on there. So we'll jump straight into it, Rog, and we'll review the games of the weekend. So we'll just go through in chronological order, which brings us to the Highlanders up against the Canes. So it was 20 points to 18. The Canes got the win away at the Highlanders. Not sure if you caught much of that game, but just run us through your impressions of what you saw in that game.
I think initially it was always going to be a tight game. I believe that, and I mentioned it on the Cameron Schuster podcast, that the Hurricanes find themselves in a desperation sort of predicament where they needed to win that, and I believe that's why it was going to be a good game, because the Highlanders have been going really good as well in the first few rounds of the season. Not your perennial easy beats as in years gone by, but they've really come out firing, the Highlanders. So it was always going to be a tough game. Hurricanes needed the win, and the Highlanders were sitting in the top three prior to that. And so, although in that top four position, so it's now sort of done well for the Hurricanes to be able to get that win. Tight tussle, always going to be Tawa Nawai. I was sort of putting my money on after seeing him perform against the Blues the week before. Punivai. I think I was getting his name mixed up, but Punivai, he got knocked out in a tackle that he was trying to make on Tawa Nawai. And you know, in the moment in that game where he got yellow carded, even though he was taken off for HIA, and because they deemed it that he had put in head contact to Tawa Nawai's head. On the breakdown, Jeff Wilson mentioned that he's spoken to the referees and they got it wrong. They got it wrong that it shouldn't have been a yellow card. There was no head contact, but at the time, they believe they did. There's no, So according to Jeff Wilson and his talk with the referees, that shouldn't have been a yellow card, and I think, and that goes to show that a moment like that, because now they're down for 10 minutes without someone playing in that back line, and it's sometimes, in hindsight, it's okay that we admit to our faults and mistakes that the officials make, but it can be crucial in a match like that because it's a crucial match. And then later on in that game, there was a contentious decision not to give a penalty to the Highlanders with Peter Manga Jensen head high, albeit he released his hands as soon as he realised where his arms were around the neck of Caleb Tangitau. And so, again, arguably, should it have been a penalty? No yellow card, but it met a penalty threshold. But then, the Highlanders would have still needed to get the kick from out wide to try and secure that win. They were down by 2. They lost by 2 points, 20-18. But again, I think that's what the officials need to tidy up, because, like I said, it's all good and well to admit that there was a wrong decision made, but we've seen so many times over the course of Super Rugby history where a call can be the difference of a team missing out on getting into playoffs, let alone losing a final. And that was the 2011 final between the Reds and Crusaders, where the Crusaders then got a penalty when Richie McCaw was penalised. Again, open to interpretation. They deemed it a penalty, whereas he could have been okay in some other quarters, and the Crusaders ended up losing that final, and the Reds got their maiden super title. So just things like that I think stood out. But I mean, in terms of some players, Ruben Love, I think had a good showing. Kini Naholo, continues to add to his try scoring tally as well. And Naholo, he went in untouched, and it was, I think the way that Ruben Love injected himself into the line and held up the defenders, and he sucked in Sam Gilbert, and it's just a little bit. You see it in rugby league as well, and how good standoffs or good halfbacks such as Daly Cherry Evans or Ponga from the Newcastle Knights, enough just to hold on to the ball before they distribute it, and then it sucks in that last defender, and it gets that little bit of an overlap, and Kini Naholo going in untouched in that. So they say that the Hurricanes, they sort of set the pace last year in their charge towards the finals, but I think in desperation to try and register their first win, they've had a couple of close, narrow losses, and I think they'll be relieved to be able to get that monkey off their back. But there was a guy, Sean Withy, he was number 7 for the Highlanders, and he's played 33 games for the Highlanders. He had a good steal, and he did some good things, and it was, contrary to the good work that Tawatawa Noa has been doing over the last few rounds. He got a great steal after Tawatawa Noa was tackled, but I'd never heard of him, and yet he's played 33 games, and that goes to show how much of an underdog, and for want of a better term, a lot of guess they're not household names, similar to, in contrast to a lot of the other teams, and you just have to look across the wealth of loose forwards that are going around in Super Rugby, and some of the new names, especially in the Chiefs, are just making headlines now, like Jerome Brown, Simon Parker, but then you've got McRae, Wilson over in Australia, Raymer for the Brumbies, but this guy sort of just comes under the radar a bit, but he did some good things for the Highlanders. Unlucky though, Roy Gard, showing his wares and doing well to be able to get the Hurricanes across the line, and the way that he's been able to come in, and there was a try that that inside running support line that the Hurricanes or any good halfback knows. O'Sullivan was able to be put into a good gap, and then he unselfishly passes the ball infield to Roy Gard running the inside support line to score another one of the Hurricanes tries, and that was in the 43rd minute. And so, but yeah, it was a tussle of a game. It was relatively low scoring in comparison to the previous weeks, but and Love scores a try later on in the 63rd minute, and that was leading up to Umanga Jensen's line break, and the patience from their forwards as well, because they wanted to make sure that they secure, and then just trying to shore things up and create that little bit of dominance, because you had some good players coming in there, and I think the Highlanders showed that they're in this competition this year, because 25 phases around the 7th, 9th minute, and they were trying to be patient, but no rewards. and that was just a good show of defence from the Hurricanes as well. So, and it was just a drop goal. The drop goal was in the end, and Sam Gilbert, 82nd minute, and his drop goal was unsuccessful, which could have easily have brought the win for the Highlanders. So, awesome spectacle. I think there's a lot of players there that are putting their hands up there, but Sean Withy stood out for me. Ethan de Groot got in some good minutes in 63 minutes, and I think looking at how they're doing their substitution, and so that they got the two props came off at the 63rd minute, and that's when Josh Bartlett, Sefo Kautai came on. So that sort of shores up their scrummaging in and around that area just to finish off the game. But we talked about Bomb Squad earlier on in the year and the way that they're bringing them on. And I think later on you'll see that the Chiefs did the same with Sione Ahio as well. And the other replacement prop, his name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, I think the Highlanders will be better for it. Close loss like that to the Hurricanes will make them want to be successful in the coming weeks and making sure they can finish off with some crucial execution that may have gone awry.
Yeah, good points there, Els. Like you said at the start, like Highlanders were top four, Canes were at the bottom. So in previous years, you'd think this is an easy mismatch. This is going to be an easy game to pick. But I listened to that podcast when you were on Cam's podcast. I think the odds were really close, and even trying to get a pick was quite difficult, which speaks to sort of the nature of this year's competition, where all the teams have been quite close. All the games have been quite close. So yeah, like I just thought that top four team against a bottom team, you think, oh well, probably going to waste them comfortably. Not the case, and it's good for the Canes to get a win because they've been in every game, they just haven't quite got over the line. So hopefully they can start their season. But if you were a Highlanders fan, those points you raised, you'd be a bit dirty on that. A yellow card that probably shouldn't have been. There was a penalty at the end which the refs missed as well. And in a competition where it's hard to pick who's going to win out of the top teams and the bottom teams, that win could cost them not necessarily a top six or maybe just miss the playoffs or just scrape in as opposed to finishing in a bit higher and getting a home playoff type thing. So I know we jump on the NRL podcast a lot, and there's a lot of complaining about the refereeing and that sort of stuff. And what that boils down to is the closeness of the games. We run one or two refereeing decisions influencing the outcome, and it feels like we're getting a bit of that happening in Super Rugby this year, just because the games are really, really close. So you think the Highlanders get a couple of those. If those calls went the Highlanders' way, they could potentially have won that game. They probably would have won that game, I reckon. Not to get into a ref bagging or anything like that, because I don't want us to be like NRL and NRL pods. But on a positive note, former Blues guy Caleb Tangitel, he looks the goods. He's always been quite good, actually. Just we got All Black wingers up in Auckland, and he's just had to wait his turn. So to go there and get game time, which he needs at this part of his development, and he's shown that if he gets enough games, he could be something. So definitely a player for the future there. But yeah, a lot of those Highlanders guys, they're looking quite good there. So that was actually quite a good game. I only saw bits and pieces of it. My kids were busy with their tag stuff, so I was helping out a bit there. So only caught in and out of that one. But
on
it was a good way of starting the weekend.
On Tangitel those days. I mean, there's word that's come out. I don't know. I caught a glimpse of it. I'm not sure whether it's social media or the mainstream media. For a bolter.
Oh,
someone's called Tangitel for a bolter. I mean, we talked about bolters earlier on, and I think the longer that my bolter is injured for, he might lessen his chances, and that's Adrian Choate. But Tangitel, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's so many good outside backs. So you think, what about Narawa? Where does he fit into the team? You talked about Naholo just about the game just gone. I mean, in this game, He's there or thereabouts. So there's just a whole log jam of outside backs. If Tangitau got a chance, I reckon he'd be good. But I reckon if Nadawa got more game time, he'd be good in the All Blacks too. Naholo probably wouldn't look too bad as well. It's
You
just
look at Naholo, he's that kind of player, but he's doing what he's been doing regularly anyway. He does it year in, year out. Where he can, he's a hard man to put down. He's got speed for his size, and then he's good at executing his tries and finishing off set moves. And yet he's never got the call up. Never gets that not even in the 15, All Blacks 15. So you've got the Severies, Mark Telea, that is, Caleb Clark, those guys, and Arawa, they're the four incumbents, And then it's who else do you add to the mix? You got Tangitau putting up his hand. You got Naholo still saying, I'm here. But, it's just a good showing for the competition. Ruben Love, does he come in and then is he a potential winger, but he's more fullback first five? And then you've got guys such as Leroy
Carter.
Leroy Carter
yeah,
doing what he's doing as well, and similarly the Australian teams, they've got a couple of 7 stars that have converted to the fifth or trying to push their claims for the 15s as well, and O'Toole is one. Who's doing well for the Brumbies? Is it Brumbies? No.
Yeah, they got a lot of good players out that way. But I think you guys talked about Tawatawa Nawai as a bolter. So you think obviously he's playing 12, but he's played wing a lot as well. So he could be another one of those utility guys.
But
then and then that makes it even harder for Tangitau again.
AJ Lamb.
So.
AJ
oh
Lamb,
yeah, right. AJ Lamb's another guy who was in
he went back to wing on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got a cap under him for the All Blacks. So how many more is he going to add? Sean Stevenson's come back into the mix. So and he's got a cap too.
I'm going to say no for Tangitau, and that's not a knock on him, just because of the players we just talked about. I don't know who I can pull out to put him in, and that's the hard part at this stage. But if he keeps playing the way he's going, like you get to a point where your form gets too irresistible, and I mean, it's on him now to carry it on. I think Sean Stevenson's moving on after this season, so that sort of decreases the logjam a little bit. But yeah, Tangitau, well done to him. This is his first time sort of being a regular starter, and he looks every bit the Super Rugby player straight away. So, good on him there. Another game. We'll move on to the next game. Also, Brumbies 38 beating the Drua 21. So, not sure if you caught much of that one, but give us your thoughts there.
No, I didn't. I don't know if I think I did. I watched the highlights of it. Been concerning about Ikitau, his form over the last. He's already consistent. He had a couple of lapses against the Chiefs, but in this game against the Drua, I think they were talking about it being a bit of a Ikitau masterclass showing from what he was able to do early on in the game as well. They broke up on the left hand side, where he made a good run, and I think in the end he ended up scoring 3 tries. Yes, Ikitau. I was going to say Sam Ikitau, but yeah, it was a good. It was always going to be a bit of a, one of those games that the Drua were unlucky to lose at home, and the Brumbies were confident because they've beaten the Drua earlier this season on their home turf, so they broke that drought of Australian teams losing to the Drua at home. And so they played an expensive game. They were trying to match what the Fijians could do. And Ikitau, they were able to stretch the defense. And I think it was just more his power running. He's not the biggest guy, but he, in close quarters but he combined with Lucy Shaw, Kale, and Hooper, who are immense back rower, showing their dominance, and Ikitau was able to close for a double, and Lonergan swoops in as well, and he's been going pretty good too. So, I think in the 30th minute, Ikitau again gets his second, and then 2 minutes later, and this is where they were trying to put the nail in the coffin, the Brumbies were able to combine through Lonergan to Wright to Muirhead, and then they score a try. And it's that back, Wright and Muirhead are such good elusive players, and to have both of them at the back there, I think there's a lot of confidence that the Brumbies are able to sort of derive from. But nothing to take away from the Drua. They had some. I think we spoke about some of their players as well. Who did we have? That's the Highlanders. Sorry, Tom Wright had 15 carries, but then again another 7-star from the Drua, Ponipate Loganimasi, 13 tries as well. 13 carries, and Tuidraki Samu Vodre. So it was a really exciting game, because even though the draw even got a yellow card, and they were able to still score 3 tries. Similar line breaks. The Brumbies had 9 and the Drua had 7. But Tom Hooper, 15 tackles. Rory Scott and even Alan Alatoa in the tackle department had 11. Defensively, it was again 126 tackles made from the Drua, 149 from the Brumbies. But it's the missed tackles. 28 from the Drua. 28 missed, whereas the Brumbies only missed 18. Still high numbers in tackling, but it just goes to show the flair that both teams have to be able to make those, to bust some tackles. But it was still an exciting match, and the Drua being able to get 21 points to a dominant Brumbies for 38. I think it puts them in good stead for some of the other teams, and puts them on other teams on notice, because the draw can be dangerous even with a man down. But again, just the discipline, some of those little micro skills that let them down, and against the more dominant and established teams such as the Brumbies, who are 2-time champions, I believe, if I recall correctly.
Sounds about right.
So, it's always going to be hard to beat the Brumbies, and the Brumbies are on fire. Again, another game that was pretty close, exciting spectacle as well, and I think the draw will get a couple more wins yet.
Yeah, good point. I think so far, like what you've done, so comprehensive reviews, but I've only caught the highlights of those first couple of games. A yellow card in each game has had a massive bearing on the results, twice as what I've got out of a lot of what you've had to say as well. It's that discipline and close competitions as well, coming back to the closeness. Like, I mean, shucks, just simple things like keeping 15 on the field for 80 minutes. That can take you a long way. So, good points there. Lenny Kittel, you mentioned that, 3 tries. He was up against Yosef Masi, who I rate, man. I think he's one of the better centers in the comp. So, for him to get those 3 tries and to put on a masterclass, like you said, up against the quality opposition, good on him. And that augurs well for him and for Australia as well, because I know that they've gone back to his quality.
I think player. The way Ikitau is playing currently, it's a matter of who do they pair him with. I think he is going to be the incumbent. He'll be the mainstay. It's how does a Hunter Paisami combine with him? How does possibly a Filippo Nangunu pair with him, because they're trying him at the Reds. They're trying him at centre as well. So it's trying to. And they've got some exciting midfields going around in the Australian game. So how does O'Connor fit into it if he gets coming back from the wilderness into the Wallaby setup? So they've got some interesting combinations that they can sort of pull from at this stage, and it's exciting leading into that 27 World Cup. I think the Australian game is just on the increase, and I think that's better for the global game too.
Yeah.
And Tool is from the Brumbies too.
Yeah. Yeah, good points there. And also, you think like they've got the Lions tour coming up as well, and you think they only come to your country once every 12 years. That's a once in a career that you'll get a chance to play them. So it feels like everyone's going all in from the Australian side, really putting their hands up. So a lot of their teams and their players really playing well. So good on the Brumbies. They're looking quite good, like you mentioned, quite ominous. So team to watch out for. So we'll move on to our next game. Crusaders 55 against the Force, beating the Force 33. Talk us through your take on that one.
Yeah, I didn't see. Again, I just saw some highlights, but I pulled some of the stats as well. And Will Jordan, 15 carries along with Severis, 15 as well. And then Tom Christie, 15 carries. So another loose forward, pushing for higher honours.
15 carries, did you say, for Christie?
15 carries, yeah.
Gee, that's
so
not
all three of them, they're the top carries, yeah. The one what I saw was, we're losing Braden Enoir at the end of the season to the French club, and he put in a good showing in the midfield too. So again, he's another one that can fill in on the wing, and I think he debuted on the wing for the All Blacks, or maybe but he can cover midfield and the wing. So with the congestion that's already there, with Tangita the up and coming of, does that give him that sort of opportunity? Because Braden Enoir, he's had a real bad run of injuries, but he put in a chip and chase, was able to regather and scored a try. Oh no, sorry, he missed the ball, and the Crusaders were able to score because of his chip over the top. So they got some territory. Was 57% to the Force, and Crusaders had 43. So that's an interesting. At the kicking game, the Force had all the kicks that giving them that advantage, but they weren't able to capitalise. The interesting one in the last 10 minutes, the overall possession was 55% to the Crusaders, 45 Force. But in the last 10 minutes, the Force had 57% of it, and so had their chances. But line breaks, Crusaders, and I guess that explains the 55 points, 16 line breaks to 4.
Ooh.
So that's a telling statistic there.
Yeah, good to hear what you said about Tom Christie. He's been a bit of a favourite guy on our podcast, and good to see him back because he was a bit on the outer there for, whatever reason at the Crusaders. I know that we rate him, but 2 of the last 3 years he's been the top tackler in all of Super Rugby. So his breakdown work as well is exceptional. But I think one of his criticism has been that the carries, the ball in hand, and all the rest of it, he's just normally okay at that part of the game. We talk about the modern game. We talked about that a little bit at our last podcast, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, how they're trying to speed it up and get the ballers in play a bit more, playing a bit more attractive rugby to get the fans back. And that you sort of think that doesn't really suit his style. I think he's been told that he has to get more better at the attacking part of the game because he's a defensive bloody beast. So when I heard if you said he got 15 carries, I'm like, good on him, because I like him, mate. If he was maybe 5 centimeters taller, 10 kgs heavier, he probably would have been up there with the All Blacks, I reckon. I think he's just a bit small, but he's a bloody excellent player, man.
It'd be interesting to see how many games he's played for the Crusaders, because he was the captain of the New Zealand 20s the same year as Adrian Choate.
Is that right?
And I think he kept Choate on the bench in the New Zealand because Tom Christie was the captain. If memory serves me right, I'm pretty sure both of them played for the New Zealand 20s a couple of years at least. But Tom Christie was ahead. So it'd be interesting to see how many games, because I believe Choate is just clocked over 50, or maybe 50 for Auckland. Sorry, 50 for Auckland. But let's just see his stats here.
But I saw, I think on social media, just on Facebook, they show some of the development teams and all the rest of it. And Tom Christie's name was in the I don't know what they call it, the Crusaders development team or whatever, sort of, and it felt like, what is he doing in there? He's way too good for that level. I know that they've like Blackadder at 7, but I just think Christie is a gun. He should be getting more game time, and I think the reason why he didn't was because he didn't have the carries, the offensive side of the ball. He wasn't doing enough. So I'm glad to hear he got those carries.
Yeah, 15 carries. I don't know. It doesn't show anything. 60. So he's played 60 for Wikipedia, and that doesn't include this year. So as of at the end of last year, he's played 60 games for Crusaders, and 15 times for New Zealand 20s, 2017, 2018. So yeah, he's 27 now.
Oh gee. So how long before he starts looking at that money?
Yeah, and
the overseas
he'll get
money,
it easy going overseas. But some of these, as we've seen with some stalwarts of Crusader country, they just they stay on and just chuck on down in Crusader country. Richie McCaw's one. Overseas didn't attract them enough, and so. But Tom Christie, he's a good solid player. I think he wouldn't be out of place with an All Black jersey on either. But he obviously he does the work. He's pretty much what. Yeah, I guess he's not as exciting a player, like you say, with the carries, a ball runner, like an Adi Savea, like a Duplessis Karifi, a Miracle Failangi. Yeah, but he's solid. Most teams would want to have him.
Yeah. Our Crusaders just keep marching on, eh? Last year was an aberration. They look to be back to their normal selves as well. That's quite a a close
I think
competition.
we've forgotten about last year now because that was.
I haven't.
I'm sure it's just part of the journey, but Crusaders fans would be happy about the progress of their team, and it showed right from that first game against the Hurricanes that they're going to be a different force. But then that set the tone for the whole competition, and that whole round one was just pure spectacle. And just really exciting to watch. So, and it's continued, and I guess it's getting people engaged and getting a lot of the fans into the Super Rugby, even now that the NRL has well and truly begun. I think there's still exciting rugby to be played across the Tasman and here.
Yep, good points there. So good on the Crusaders. That's quite in a close game competition, which got a lot of close games. That was quite it's a 22-point victory. That's up there. We'll look at the next game, Rog. I know you've got pages and pages of notes here. Chiefs 32, Blues 31. Talk us through the Chiefs' perspective on that game, brother.
Oh, what have I got for stats? I think what was exciting about the Chiefs was just their patience, how they would be able to trust their structure the go forward with the forwards first, and then spreading it out wide, or just the elusiveness of a Damien McKenzie. The first try was in the 8th minute, 13th minute, but it was off. There was a line out. Jerome Brown makes a good run off the line out. And then it was just good patience by the team from there. Got to the opposite end of the field. Leroy Carter resets and just runs sideways a la Mark Ellis, and then straightens up and resets in the middle. And then before long, it goes back out. I think it was halfback passes it out. Stevenson gets quickly to Stevenson with the behind the back pass, which ends up in Ronna's hands, and he scores the first try of the game. And why I say patience, because that was after about 9 phases, albeit not as long as some of the other sequences that was seen, but that put the Chiefs in good stead, and the Blues were put on notice. But I think then the next sort of set of points didn't come until the 33rd minute. that was after the Blues were in the Chiefs' half for about 6 minutes. So, and they were holding on for several phases as well. And then that was the AJ Lamb try, and so that was a well executed try. They got some numbers out wide, and so AJ Lamb again. Because we talked about AJ Lamb being left out. Why were they leaving him out with Xavier? But then obviously something that has happened either in the warm-up or just before game day that Caleb Clark is out. And AJ Lamb he was on the bench anyway, but he's been chosen to start on the wing. And that's what we're familiar with AJ being able to, I guess that's to be able to play on the wing. And that's the luxury of having a guy like him. But I think I was sort of wondering how he could be left out, despite all his good things he had been doing in the competition so far. In that midfield, he was, really hard to contain for opposition.
I think I don't know if you caught the game, but they mentioned in commentary similar to what you mentioned, because when he got that try, it was Taylor Johnson. She said that AJ Lamb, he's first in Blues for carries, meters, and tackles beaten. So I listened to your guys' pod, and in my mind I'm thinking, what the heck are you guys getting rid of him for?
Yeah.
Maybe rest him against another week or whatever. But yeah, you're right. And they mentioned how devastating he's been for the Blues. So it was a head scratcher at first. Maybe they knew something about the injuries that we didn't know at the time.
But then if that's the case, management are playing with people's fantasy teams, because
That's right.
a lot of people
right.
they're not going to include AJ Lamb because he's on the bench. So we want to get someone that's playing more minutes. So that could have been to the detriment to a lot of fantasy teams. But hey, AJ Lamb scores for the Blues, and then that sort of led on to when I saw a good moment was for the Chiefs anyway. Was Lachlan McFunnell for the Blues. He got penalised for lying in the ruck when the Blues they were on their try line trying to defend the Chiefs, and he couldn't roll away. So then O'Keefe has penalised him, and that created the advantage of the Chiefs. However, they continue to use the advantage. That was a low pass from Road to McKenzie. People were saying it was a knock-on. It's bounced backwards. The defense have rushed up, but not touching McKenzie because the ball's on the ground. McKenzie, with the sound mind that he has, just to collect and waltzes in backwards towards the try and score for the Chiefs. And that took us up to 13-7. So the next set of points wasn't until Mark Telea in the 39th minute. And in the highlights, you don't see the build-up because Plummer is the one that gives the long ball. But when you watch the full game, you see that Plummer tried to do the long ball option earlier on and failed miserably. He threw it to the fourth row or something. So it was good. Just before half-time, I think the Blues needed that, and he got the try. But again, discipline let down the Chiefs. Naitoa Akoi, he saw himself sitting in the stands for 10 minutes.
Yep.
He was trying to play the halfback's hand. And so, again, patience shown by the Blues. And Corey Evans, who I think has been showing some good touches from the back, he scored a try for the Blues. So, and then, again, discipline 7 minutes later. So, Xavi Taele gets a yellow card and then and that was because he was rolling into the 9 at the half at the base of the ruck. Tupova scores a minute later with a good try, and that was from a scrum penalty. Oh no, it wasn't a scrum penalty, but I thought the Blues were trying to milk that scrum in front, about 10 metres out, and arguably you could say you can interpret that it was Fusito had just come on, Angus Ta'avao still on, and his side is the one that's gone down. But it's away from the camera, so can't really understand what's happened there. But the Chiefs have been able to carry on and then distribute from the back of the scrum for Tupova try. Talking about Tom Christie and Withy from the Highlanders. Signa playing at 8. I sort of question it because, for all the good attributes that he has, there was a in the 62nd minute, Perifeta, the Blues were on the charge, wide pass to AJ Lamb. AJ Lamb is isolated, he's by himself, and a whole host of Chiefs come in at him. Signa is the loose forward that comes in. Rieko Ioane tries to assist, but Signa's position, his body height, his body position can't counter the three Chiefs that have come in. And the counter ruck from that Chiefs, because AJ Lamb all he could do was to go down. I understand the sentiment is correct to try and go wide and stretch the Chiefs defense, but in that they counter that ruck. Signa gets pushed out of the way. Signa comes in almost just touching. His body height's not good. I think one of the players gets Stevenson. Stevenson makes the tackle on AJ Lamb. Stevenson gets up. You'd think with a bit of mongrel, you can just come in and just smash Stevenson out. He was almost too respectful and just pats him on the back and then tries to find his body. By that time, it's too late, and then they've lost the ball. Damian McKenzie finds that because everyone's now trucking towards that sideline, but none of the forwards are there. And so he's gone back in field towards the lower numbers, pops it off the ground to Takiaho, I believe. Takiaho's then taken it to ground, pops it up to Sami Penny. Sami Penny out to Kara. Kara back to Sami Penny. Sami Penny goes for a 20-metre trot. And then back inside onto the inside support. Cortez Ratima, again off the bench. Sami Penny off the bench. Cortez Ratima off the bench. 2 new props in. Takiaho's come on in the 50th minute. The 2 new props come in the 59th minute. We talked about the bomb squad. The Chiefs, did they get it right again? We look at the Blues' impact off the bench. Is it as noticeable? I think it's contrasting. And there's a bit of daylight in between the way that the forwards have come on. Marcel Ratana, to his credit, scores that last try for the Blues. And that's where, Marcel Ratana scores in the 65th minute. So even though they're chasing, they momentarily take the lead, but the Chiefs take it back off them. And Xavier Taele, could have won it at the end there after the Rieko Ioane try. And they still were trying things. That's what I was encouraged by the Blues, is that they were still trying. But then what they might look back at is not going for the 3 points in the earlier stages of that game, where they had penalty after penalty and they kept on going for the line to try and get the line out. They lost by, what was the score in the end?
32-31.
32-31. So, just one of them would have made the difference. But, it changed the game. I was unlucky because he, on debut, he could have been the hero with a lucky escape, but hit the paint, and that was the scoreline. But for their creativity, Rieko Ioane getting over the try line, but that penalty that Damian McKenzie slotted in the 71st minute, was a sign of respect towards the Blues. But I just don't think that the power game in their forward play is there as we saw it last year. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure if that cohesion is there. I don't question their want, but they're being blown off the park by some forward packs at the moment. Patrick Tupolotu was going good guns. If I look at some of the stats, Brodie McAllister, Jerome Brown, and Luke Jacobson were all leading the tackles. So they were 20, 19, and 16, respectively. Carries Corey Evans, Cam Christie. So Cam Christie was the flanker for the Blues. So they were both 12 each, and then Narawa with 11 carries. So those are some of the dominant tackles. Again, were all Chiefs men. Simon Parker, Dyer, and Luke Jacobson. But possession overall, the Blues had 57% overall. In the last 10 minutes, they had 60% of that possession. Just unable to sort of convert. 162 tackles for the Blues, 104 for the Chiefs. Blues scored 5 tries, and the Chiefs scored 4.
Oh,
So again, it's 5 tries. It's 25 points. Conversions gone astray, and go back to those penalties that they chose to turn down. Instead of going for the 3 points, they chose to opt for the line out. Hey, the tries are there. They can make the. I'm just trying to look for line breaks. Where's the line breaks? Yeah, the Blues had 9 line breaks, 328 meter post contact meters to 181 for the Blues. 4 line break for the Chiefs, sorry, and 4 line breaks for the Chiefs. But turnovers one each. Turnovers lost 16 Blues, 10 to the Chiefs. And the penalty count 9 and 10, and then a yellow card each. So I don't know what you make of that. It's the numbers are there, the effort's there, the position is there, but
I don't know if the execution is there. You talked about that thing with senior. I mean, that's not good enough, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. It looks like we want to play the same. I'm sorry for our listeners. I mean the Blues. The Blues are trying to play the same game plan that won it for them last year, and they're just not executing. So I think Akira was a big part of that game plan. He was third in the whole competition for carries, and he was the one who would sort of break through, win those contacts. They're only putting 1 or 2 guys in the ruck, trying to get more of their guys in. Then they're attacking second, third, fourth phase after that. Once there's such heaps of guys into the ruck, and that's creating opportunities for other places, where they haven't got enough defenders. But because they've been getting turned over so much. You talked about Tawa Nawai against the Blues. He looked like young McCaw out there, just winning all the balls. David Pocock, and they're not winning those contacts and the forward battle, and then they're trying to just commit 1 or 2 to the rucks, and it's not working. So I think the execution's not there. Hopefully they get Hoskins back from his suspension. That'll help, because he's one of their big ball carriers. I think Tupurotu's doing good things. I don't know what to do with Senya. He's something. I don't know if he's an 8. I don't know where he fits in. He's not nothing.
He's definitely
he's something, but I don't know where he got what to do with him.
Yeah, it was interesting because there was a similar scenario that I mentioned about Signer not being able to seal the ball when AJ Lamb took the ball to ground, tackled by Stevenson. Later on in the game, earlier in the match, there was something similar, and that was but it involved Jerome Brown. He was trucking around, and there was where did I write it? Sorry, guys. You can pause it there, Cam, and then edit this out. Yeah, in the 23rd minute. So Jerome Brown, Carter takes the ball in, and Brown seals it seals it well, despite having 3 or 4 Blues players trying to clean him out. But he's there in a good position and to secure it, and even though he's getting pushed back, they're losing it, but the ball is secure, and then we're still able to. And that was the contrast between what Signer tried to do when AJ Lamb was in a similar scenario, and he just had a better body position, and he just seems to have, and he's getting a lot of reps at the moment in Super Rugby. Jerome Brown, he's come out of where has he come from? So, but yeah,
I don't know, because I think you mentioned this a couple of pods back, but he's quite slim looking.
He is slim, but he must be a giant of a man. He must be tall, but he just seemed. And there was a carry earlier that he did carry, and there was a couple of guys on top of him, so he's got good leg drive. But I just don't think. Yeah, I'm not sure. They see something in him, and he's been spotted. He's been earmarked, and I think he's definitely a Super Rugby player. But I prefer Choate to him, Adrian Choate. But then, and I think that's why he's always found himself in and around on the bench. But then both Choate and Signer are utilities. They can play 6, 7, and 8. So that's why they can fit in around a Papali'i. Now a new arrival of Cam Christie, especially when Akita was there as well, and then with Hoskins. So you got the luxury of, horses for courses in certain games, but then, he's very different to a Jerome Brown, to a Luke Reimer, to Tom Christie, or even a Duplessis Karifi. But then you got Adi Savia, who's the pinnacle at the moment. He's the model loose forward. How does Signa, compare?
Well, I think because he's skinny, but he's quite mobile, so I think he gets there first. He doesn't do much when he gets there per se, but he might be the guy who's the first.
To be fair, yeah, that particular one that I sort of noticed and observed was that he obviously didn't come in. Sean Stevenson, in his wisdom, was impeding, but I just thought if that was Adi or Karifi, Sean Stevenson would have been blown away.
Yeah, he's out. That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that's got to be his job, especially if the Blues want to persist with winning the forward battle and doing these types of things, winning the rucks and playing the same style they did last year. If there's a guy there, you've got to clear them out.
That Cortez Ratima try, they'll go back to how did this all start? And they'll go back to that Terry Ruck.
That's right.
Where he wasn't able to get lower to clean out Sean Stevenson or to try and secure the ball. So, yeah, those are just some of the thoughts. But I was happy. It was a good escape for the Chiefs. 1 point. A win's a win, I suppose. The interesting thing about where the Blues are at the moment, again, it was something that was mentioned from the breakdown. In 2024, 17 matches, the points that the Blues conceded was on average of 15.76. And points conceded from tries was about 10.29. In 2025, in 5 matches, the points of the conceded on average is 27.2 and 14 points conceded from tries, and that's 5 games in. I know it's a hard sort of compare, but yeah, it just goes to show how dominant they were.
Yeah, but you said yourself, we scored 5 tries. If you score 5 tries, you should win.
Normally you win, but winners. But then it's it's the boot and that the conversions that come into play as well that are important, and then the penalties.
Yeah.
So
just on there, I want to say that I heard you and Joey on Cam's podcast talking about young Xavier Taylor on debut, but to his credit, he was actually quite good. But that was a big ask, and he's a part-time kicker, and then the game's on the line, and he's on debut, and he's got to be the part-time kicker to win it for him. I don't know what happened if Peter Feta's still sorting his stuff out. I think Plummer was on, wasn't he? So what the heck was Taylor doing the kicking for?
Feta on the bench, so
yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look at that again. I don't know how he ended up with the kicking duties. That's a big ask on the young shoulders.
But he must have some good credentials, because I think one of the listeners has commented on that pod, because I was asking the question because I personally haven't heard. I've heard the name, but I don't know what his rugby pedigree or what he's achieved leading in. Obviously, he deserves to be there. He's worked and been recognised to be able to start for the Blues, but I think it was just more as to the question mark around swapping out AJ Lamb, putting him on the bench after the devastation that he's caused so far in the 4 rounds. But AJ Lamb ended up getting in there. But so that was but the kid's got some huge talent.
Yeah.
And it was just unfortunate when he got yellow carded on the weekend as well.
Yeah. I only watched the Auckland games in the NPC, and he was good. That's where I saw him sort of last year. So he's the player of tremendous promise. But yeah, that's back-to-back weeks where we've lost by 1 point. So if I did some quick maths, we would be 3rd right now if we could have won both of those games. But now we're sitting in 9th. And that's the closeness of the competition. But need to pull finger and get the execution right. I'm happy with all those other stats you said, but just some execution issues, micro skills, as you like to call it, and the coaches like to call it. The coach gobbledygook. Get the micro skills going.
Stacey?
Huh?
Do you think the Blues can still win it?
I do.
Because
Because
you know how
I
the
think
Crusaders, despite their season last year, they just missed out
Mm.
on the quarterfinals. But that was top 8 last year,
Mm.
right? And now it's only top 6 this year. So with 4 losses, 1 win, similar to the Canes.
Chiefs at top of the table. So that was the best team in the comp at home against the team close to the bottom. There's 1 point difference. So the difference between the top and the bottom is close. The Blues aren't that far off, to be honest. Like that's back-to-back 1 point losses 2 weeks in a row. So I reckon if we can get to 6th, 5th, and get the execution right, I think that they've got the players. So, but we're getting to that point where you can't keep having these 1 point losses. We need a pull finger.
Well, I was looking at your run home.
Oh yeah, okay. So you don't think we can win it? Is that what you're saying?
I've got a little bit to say about that because you got Crusaders at home, Hurricanes at home, Moana at home, 3 home games in
Okay.
a row for the next 3 weeks. I think there's a bye week coming up in amongst that, but the 3 home games, and then you got the Crusaders again and Reds away. Back for the Force at home, Drua and Moana away. Well, Moana's just up the road in North Shore,
Yeah.
in Albany. I don't know where the draw game will be. Whether it's because I know the draw are playing Counties Manukau at Counties Manukau this weekend.
Okay.
So whether it's going to be an away game there or away in the islands.
Mm.
But then you got the Waratahs is to round off in round 16 home. So 2 Crusaders matches, 2 Moana matches, Force, Draw, Reds, Hurricanes, and the Waratahs.
It's not the worst draw. The 2 Crusaders games is probably the ones, but yeah,
But I'm reckoning how many of those games do you need to win to at least make the playoffs, try and get into the 6? Because that's 3, 6, 9 games. You've dropped all 4 out of 5.
yeah.
1 win.
Well, I think just looking at the table now, we're on 7. The Highlanders are on 10, and they're in 6 spots. That's only a 3 point difference. Like we're 1 game out of the top 6 really. So I think we can pick a game up, yeah, for sure. It can be hard because if you finish top, I think you're basically home the whole way, and that's where it's going to get difficult if you just scrape into the top 6 type thing. But I feel confident.
Do you think you can win it?
Yes, I do.
The whole thing?
Yep, I do. I think that the style that we've got, I think it's still going to work. The execution needs to be better, and I feel like Hoskins is a crucial part of that. We saw Cameron Saw-4, who's good. When he comes back, I think that those are 2 crucial guys to the forward battle. It's Patrick Tupolotu, who said's been good, you mentioned, but he needs a bit more help, a bit more dynamic around us. Hoskins in particular is a big loss. I've been impressed with Cameron Saw-4 as well. I think we've still got the players to play the style that we want to play if we can execute it better. So I'd trust the game plan. Just the execution needs to be fixed.
I'd just like to, because based on history and the stats, there's only been 1 team that has won the championship, won the super title after having the first 2 losses. And because we talked about it being early days after the Chiefs, after the Blues lost their first 2 games, and Joey mentioned that, oh no, the Crusaders have done it before. I even looked into that. The Crusaders have never done it. They've never done it before from losing their first 2 matches, and they've never done it back to back after losing 2 in a row either. The only time that they almost did it was that 2011 title.
Well, they had lost
their first.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They had lost their first 2 matches in the 2011 season, and then just from that penalty that McCaw gave away in the dying stages of that final against the Reds, that the Reds took that away. They would have been the first, but The only team that's done it is the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes did it in
16.
2016. So they're the only team in the history of Super Rugby for as long as it's been going. I know there's been so many different changes in the structure of the competition, but the Hurricanes are the only one to do it in 2016 when they lost 52-10 to the Brumbies and 17-16 to the Highlanders in their first two games. And then they came back and won the whole thing. So they're the only team that done it. The Crusaders, despite being all their championships that they won, was yeah.
The thing is, like, we talk about the closeness of the competition. So if you win 3 in a row, you are sweet. If you lose 3 in a row, you can be almost out of it. So the Blues aren't far off.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So that, they still have the chance, the opportunity. They got to pretty much win almost everything that's left. At least 6 or 7 of their remaining games to get a start in the playoffs. Then after the playoffs is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
So it goes from scratch from there. But it's just based on history. According to the stats, I've already written the Blues off.
Oh,
they won't be able to go back to back. They won't be winning this championship. When they won last year, they were. How many did they win? I didn't even have it here. Yeah, if it's going to go back to back, the Chiefs did it in 2012, 2013, but in the 2013 season, they won both their games. The Bulls did it back to back, 2009, 2010. They won both their first 2 games. But yeah, so it's just based on that. I just don't think that they'll be able to do it. Admittedly, the Crusaders have, out of their 16 times that they've been in the finals, 12 times title holders. They did the 3-peat twice, and they've done the 2-peat back-to-back twice as well. But nowhere in that time when they did their back-to-back did they lose their first 2. They won. 2005 and 2006. They won their first one and lost, and then 2006 when they did back-to-back, they won both. And similarly, 2022, 2023. So I just going off the history, they won't be able to do it. Even when they did it, 98, when they lost the 98 title, they had lost their first game. But so they hadn't made the final, but no one makes the final and wins it other than the Hurricanes. And no one's done it back-to-back, having lost their first 2 games either.
Well, I'm looking at 2024. So the Blues, they won 12, they lost 2 all year. So we've already lost 4. We've doubled our losses from last year already. 4 of the 5. It's going to be an uphill battle. But I haven't lost the faith yet. We could really, maybe not that first game. The Chiefs were the best team in that first game. But for the other 4 games, we only won 1. And we could have won all of those. We could have won it on the weekend against the Chiefs. We should have beat the Brumbies the week before. I know could have, would have, should have, but it's sort of, I'm not, in my eyes, where we are compared to where we could be, that gap isn't that large. Even though it says 1 win, 4 losses, if you take it on face value, you think, they're probably out of it. But if you watch the games, what I've seen from the Chiefs, this game just gone against the Chiefs, the week before against the Brumbies, who were 2 legitimate contenders, Chiefs and Brumbies. And we were right there with them all the whole way. Just a couple of tweaks here and there, micro tweaks. And we won both of those games. So I'm not writing them off yet. And maybe that's just my biasness coming through. But we'll see. Good points there, Jules. And we'll bring this up again because we're not out of it. No way. Not yet.
They're gone. Play this back. They're gone.
Okay. All right. We'll look forward, mate. Reds 35, Waratahs 15. I'm not sure if you've caught much of the Aussie derbies, but any thoughts on that one?
Unfortunately, I never caught that one. But again, just going off some of the stats, they had here. This is where they got some good players on both sides, and I really like the look of the Reds and some of their players that they've got. Seru Uru, Who else was there? Is that the Reds? Yeah. Hunter Paisami, Filippo Dangunu, Alex Hodgman. I think he came on pretty early, former All Black and Blues man.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to him.
There was must have been an injury 3 minutes into the game to the loose head prop. Se Fa'angasi must have got injured. So, But then what I like about the Reds, they've got guys like, the Waratahs. Charlie Gamble, he's real good too, and Rob Leota, who's a current Wallaby. So we talked about the Wallabies, the loose forwards going around in the competition, and you got some right here in the likes of Seru Uru, Harry Wilson as well, and McRate.
Yeah.
McRate, who's Wallaby as well. So there's good competition for the loose forwards. But in that game in particular, 127 carries for the Waratahs to 164 for the Reds. 8 line breaks versus 4. 8 to the Reds, 4 to the Waratahs. So, and 5 tries to the Reds, 2 tries to the Waratahs. So I think Callaway got another yellow card in the game as well. So that didn't help things for the Waratahs. But in terms of some other stats, 127 carries for the Waratahs to 164 for the Reds. And the Reds had 400 meters post contact meters versus 315 for the Waratahs. Dangunu lost 4 turnovers. McRate lost 3. Harry Wilson lost 3. So but then you look at some of the tackles, and again, Harry Wilson's up there, 22. 22 tackles. Henry O'Donnell, with 23. Henry O'Donnell played 13. So he's a centre. And turnovers 1. You got Seru Uru, who we mentioned, Gamble, and Callaway, all with 2 each. So, some of these backs, as we've seen with Tawatawa Nawa, who we can't stop mentioning, all getting in there for the turnovers. I think a good showing for the Chiefs as well is
Tupoia.
So he's low to the ground as well, similar to the Tawatawa Nawa mold.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't shy away from the close quarter stuff. But I guess it sort of shows a pretty tightly contested match between the Waratahs for tackles and defense. 203 tackles for the Waratahs, 171 for the Reds.
How was it? I'm similar to you. I only saw the highlights of it, but I'm like you. I like those Reds, Lucy's, McWright, Harry Wilson in particular. Man, they're outstanding. And I like the Reds. They play quite a positive brand of footy, which can be quite compelling to watch. So you mentioned it earlier. I thought Andrew Callaway picked up that yellow card early on in the first half, and that allowed the Reds to sort of get out to an early lead. And then from there, they were able to sort of hold on and win it from there. But the Reds are looking good as well. So it's hard to get a gauge of who's out of it and who's still in it, in my opinion, Rog.
Well, the Reds are definitely in it because they've only dropped the one game.
Yeah.
The Brumbies are undefeated. Oh, no. No, Brumbies have lost 2. Is it those 3 wins? So no one. I think they were making something about it's the first time in the competition, in the super competition, that by round 5 everyone has got at least 1 win. First time since 98 or 97.
Yep.
I believe. So that says a lot about the excitement that everyone's experiencing about the competition.
Yeah. And also at the top end, there's no team that's undefeated and running away with it. Everyone's had at least a loss as well. And we talked about the, how much the Australian teams have improved. So if I look at the top 6, it's 3 key Kiwi teams, 3 Aussie teams. So that really augurs well for the competition as a whole. So yeah.
But having the Highlanders up there, I don't think anyone would have picked the Highlanders to be in the top 6 at this stage.
Well, we
Even
didn't in the pod.
they've been consistent in the last. They were third until round 5.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, you think they get a couple of refereeing calls, which you talked about. They're right up there.
But that's where that shows how big a leap that the Hurricanes are, because the Hurricanes were they were 11th. They were bottom of the table.
Right.
With that one win, they've leapt up to 7th. So, and the Blues are still in that 9th position. So I think the Blues were 10th. Moana and Fiji Drua were ahead of both the Blues and the Hurricanes previous week. So I guess it goes to show what one win can make. And I guess and points difference is massive as well. So even though the Blues didn't win, they've leapt both Moana and Drua to be in 9th place. So I think even though the Force lost that game to the Crusaders rather quite convincingly, but they still scored some points, some serious points there.
I think, they need to fix their defence instead of looking back. Obviously they conceded 55 against the Crusaders, but they leaked back-to-back 40-point games as well, which they ended up winning. But, it's just the defence is one thing that they need to really get sorted. So, you're good points there. All right, mate. Well, that was a comprehensive review of the games. We'll do some previews of this upcoming week there, right, Jules? So we'll start on Friday night, Moana against the Chiefs up here in Auckland. Give us your thoughts and your prediction on that one.
So the Moana Chiefs, is that the one that's out at Navigation Home Stadium out in Counties Manukau?
I'll have to check that. I know it's listed as a home game for Moana. So where they're playing it, I haven't got that far, but it is a Moana home game.
That was relocated from Nuku'alofa. It was meant to be Nuku'alofa.
Oh, yeah, okay,
but
right.
Now they've relocated it to Counties Manukau, to their home ground. So Moana Pasifika going good. I really like the look of Pellegrini, and it just takes a little bit of the pressure off Havili.
Yes.
Who he goes good at fullback. They've tried him at first 5 as well, but now having Havili there, it just puts a little bit of pressure on Garden Bishop to sort of try and push for a start now. But Pellegrini's been the bright light out of Moana as well. Obviously, in and around the shining light of Adi Savia. But you can't take a lot away from Moana's effort so far this year, despite their losses. But that win against the Hurricane will bode them well going deep into this competition. Even if they, trying to make that 6, and it's just, again, similar to the Drua, just some of those, real basic errors that they make and indecision sometimes. But with the likes of Adi, I'm sure that'll quickly, as we go deeper into this competition, he's just raising the bar for a lot of these players that are around, that are looking to him in admiration, and just some of these players just never would have thought that they would be in the same team as an Adi Savia. But I think there's going to be some noise from the Moana, and they'll bring it to the Chiefs. If the Drua can do it, Moana can do it as well. And I think bringing it to that stadium in Pukekohe, the home of the Steelers, I think it might bring a bit of a crowd, because a lot of the demographic that are Pacific reside closer to Pukekohe than they do in Albany, where they're currently based.
Yeah.
But I can understand the logistics as to why Albany and North Harbour Stadium works for them. But it'll be an interesting showcase to get in, to push for a lot of the South Aucklanders, where a lot of their fan base is, to come down to watch Moana play the Chiefs. Top of the table for the Chiefs. They wouldn't want to. What we saw previously is some teams sort of underestimate, like they did with the draw. Oh, I don't know if they underestimate or showed a lack of respect, but by benching some players, putting some players out. But as we know, this competition is so tight that can you risk that at this stage of the competition, where a win is so crucial at any stage during the competition. So I'm pretty sure the Chiefs would want to put their best foot forward, put out their best lineup, and show some respect. I think the Chiefs will go 13 plus against Moana.
Ooh. Yeah, it's a good point you mentioned about the complacency factor, because you've got to rest them somewhere, and I wonder if the Chiefs are thinking this might be another game to rest some of their players who played a lot of minutes. That move to Pukekohe Stadium, I did not know that was going to happen, but that also plays in the Chiefs' hands in a lot of ways, because that means that their fans don't have too far to travel, so they might get more supporters there as well, which could backfire on Moana.
That's the thing, because Navigation Home Stadium, as it's known at the moment in Pukekohe, that is Steelers is part of the Chiefs franchise, so it's sort of a catch-22 where a double-edged sword with you're going to have the support base for the Chiefs there anyway, but it's closer for those that are out in Manukau and beyond, down into that Franklin area, to come out and support both their teams, I guess. But albeit a home game for Moana, it's almost like a home game for the Chiefs too.
Yeah. I will say Moana, they're looking for back-to-back wins for the first time in their history. So there is some history on the line. And we know how good Adi is. You talked about that already, Rog. They've got Tolmoi Folau on the wing, who's been good. Miracle, you've talked about as well, who's been a gun for them. So they've got some good players in there. But yeah, so far the Chiefs, they've been the best team in Super Rugby so far. So I'll also go the Chiefs. I don't think 13 plus. I think it's going to be a bit closer, but I'll go Chiefs sort of 12 and under for sure. So Highlanders Reds. That's actually third place against sixth place. So this could be a good one. Talk us through that one. How you seen that one?
So again, it's going to be some of the unknown players, from a domestic perspective from us, because we are familiar with those guys that are in the other franchises. But Highlanders, I don't know whether it's because it's so far away or, but I think what they've shown this year is that they're able to compete against the bigger teams, and they're trying to make a name for themselves by what they're putting out there. And is it a Jamie Joseph factor as well? The way that he's been able to garner the wairoa of the Highlanders and be able to make them believe in themselves, that they deservedly belong in this competition just as much as any other franchise. The Reds have got a lot to prove too, and just to carry on from what they did against the Waratahs, and they want to cement a placing in that top six. They're already third, but I just feel that the players that they have at the Reds, it's going to be tough. And they've got the loose forward trio that I mentioned in McWright, Wilson, and Uru, versus who they've got at the Highlanders. But Tawa Nawai, putting it up against the midfield that they have as well. It's going to be interesting competition, and see if Filippo and Hunter can combat that, because Taniela Talia,
Yeah,
it's with Tawa Nawai. They're really good combo. So it'll just be interesting to see if they can, the Highlanders can bounce back from the disappointment of the Hurricanes, and then try and climb higher in that table. And by beating the Reds, I think they will. It's a class act from the Reds. Even with young Tom Liner there as well in the backs. He played almost a full game. My head's saying that the Reds will be too good for the Highlanders, but my heart's with the Highlanders. So I'm going the Highlanders 12 and under.
Ooh. Yeah, this could be match of the round because I'm a bit 50-50 on this one as well. This is quite a difficult one to pick. Two teams at the moment in playoff pictures and playoff positions. Highlanders at home. I'm not sure if that sways it. And I think like when we did our review of that game against the Hurricanes, they'll be upset that they lost that game. I don't know that sometimes that can drive a team and give you an extra sort of 1 or 2% of motivation, which could be enough. So far we're on the same page. I will go the Highlanders, but it's gonna be a close one. I'll go Highlanders. Yeah, definitely close. Reds to get a bonus point, 7 points and under in that one. Maybe another match of the round for me. Blues Crusaders. How are you feeling about that one?
Blues Crusaders. Because I'm thinking, I can't remember if they've gone with the same. The Blues have settled on a loose trio for the loose forwards, and whether they've been able to go at least 2 games with the same trio. And Segner playing at 8 again was another change up in that.
Yeah.
Where he's been coming on as a 6 or 7, but then now he was starting at 8. Cam Christie has been good in 6, and then obviously with Papali. Again, Papali for me is a bit of a miss. Just hasn't his presence, I suppose, but he's probably doing a lot of dog work. But I think that loose trio, who they select to try and establish a combination there, will go a long way in trying to counter. You've got Cullen Grace, Ethan Blackadder, Tom Christie. Whatever combination they're going to throw at the Blues as well. But Sevu Reece out wide, Will Jordan, Havili, who's coming into his own as the captain there. And then you've got a host of just All Blacks right through that park, both sides. But if the Blues can do what they did against the Canes 2 weeks ago, I think the Blues can be able to take it. In desperation, we go back to desperation. The Hurricanes were desperate because they lost the week before to the Blues. They were able to pull off this game against the Highlanders, even they would have been touted as the favourites anyway. Because I think because of the Highlanders' perennial tag of the cellar dweller, but Highlanders have proven enough to be able to foot it with the best. But going back to desperation, and I think this is the place where the Blues find themselves now in order to get this win against the Crusaders. The Highlanders and Canes match, in the last 10 minutes, the Canes tackled 101 times in the last 10 minutes of that game versus the Highlanders, and they didn't give away a single penalty. And so that was desperation for them to be able to win by a 2-point margin versus the, an on-form Highlanders. So that's what I think, not only desperation in this moment, in the predicament that the Blues find, but it's defense that will end up winning the Super title for this year, let alone this game versus the Crusaders for the Blues. And they have to be on par. They have to be on their A game in order to shut down what's going to be coming in terms of the Crusaders.
Yeah, good points there. I agree with you about that loose forward trio. I believe we're doing this podcast, obviously, just for our listeners, before the teams have been named, but I believe that Hoskins should be back this week. And that's going to make a big difference because then he can play 8 when move Senior to 7 onto the bench. And I don't know what happened with Saw4. I think he just got rested. But of the loose forwards we've seen thus far, he's been the Blues' best. So if he can come in at 6, that's a better loose forward mix because you're right, it's crucial to the style that we want to play. The loosies play a big role in how we play the game. So this forward-orientated game, there's carries and winning it through the middle really, and just dominating through the forwards. And so if we can get that loose forward trio back, I feel confident we can get a win. And like you said, you're basically saying it's gone. I'm saying not yet. If they lose this week, we might be having a different conversation on the pod. So we're at that point now where we can't be losing anymore. And that desperation, I'm with you, will carry the Blues through. So so far we're on the same page. I'm going the Blues in a close one. I will mention Sevu Reece on 64 tries in Super Rugby. That's second all time. TJ Perenara on 65. He's got the record for most tries in Super Rugby history. So, that record is imminent, but it won't be this week. I just wanted to mention that he's on 64 tries.
He's gonna get it. Oh, maybe in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, we're so far I'm with you, but yeah, Blues in a close one. Blues 12 and under.
12 and under, yeah, for me too, for the Blues.
All right, Waratahs Brumbies, another good one. So this is 4th versus 5th. How are you seeing that one?
I mean, I think Brumbies are despite being under the Reds at the moment, the Reds have got a game in hand as well. So the Brumbies, I believe the Brumbies will be too good for the Waratahs. And all three of them are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Reds, Brumbies, and Waratahs respectively. So I think this is where the Brumbies are going to be able to separate themselves from the pack, especially because they're 13, 14, 14. So 3 teams are on 14. Chiefs are on 16. I'm thinking it'll be Brumbies. Yeah. I think the Brumbies I love. Just with Tom Wright at the back, Toole on one wing, and then you've got Muirhead. Those guys are so awesome, and it's almost like having what we have with Will Jordan, Sevu Reece, and who's on the other wing for the Crusaders?
Macca Springer was on there last week.
Springer, yeah. So, and he's going good guns too. So you got all this attacking power can come at you which way, they come back with confidence. They're good in the air, safe under the high ball, and they can attack from anywhere. And we've spoken about Lenny Ikitel, and so he'll be looking to control that and to be able to minimise any of the threats coming through the middle. So I'm going with the Brumbies. They're going to score a few tries coming from the mauls, from their lineouts. Renowned for that. Luke Reimer, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench, he's good impact. And again, he's behind a few good players fighting out for not only for the Brumbies jersey, but for the Waratahs, for the Wallabies higher honours as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a good clash, but I think the Brumbies were too good, 12 and under.
Yeah, this is another one that I'm 50-50 on. I'm not sure how far away Suali'i is. I think he's close. So, like I mentioned, we're doing this podcast before the teams are named, which I rate him highly. He's had one of the smoothest transitions I've ever seen of a league guy to union has been Suali'i. So, he could make a difference if he's there. Waratahs at home as well. So, just because we have agreed every time, I'm going to go something different to mix it up. So I'll take the Waratahs on that one. But that's going to be another good game. So far, lots of good games, all worth a watch. Which brings us to our last game of the weekend. It's the Force up against the Drua. So, how are you seeing that one?
Drua will be just looking to... I think Glenn Jackson's frustration would be he knows he's got some good attacking prowess, good natural rugby flair and nous through the Drua, who are not shy to tap and go, as opposed to going for a line-out kick, but not even the 3 points. But I think the Drua will be looking at some of the missed opportunities in their past games, because there have been some close losses. Still be able to score 3 tries against. Who did they play last week?
Who's that? The Drua?
Drua.
The Drua played the Brumbies last week.
Brumbies. So I think the Brumbies are obviously they're the top team, I believe, even though the table doesn't say. The top style of rugby for Australian game, and I think the Force are not at their same level. So I think the Drua will be able to capitalise and utilise their outside backs and their natural flair to get that one. I'm looking at 12 and under. Is that at home? Is that away?
Away for the Drua, it's a home game for the Force.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going Drua to win 12 and under.
Yeah, another tough one to pick. It's a crucial game for both sides because they're both currently outside the playoff spots, and we're starting to get to that point now where, if you can win, then you're still in the hunt. If you lose, then you're starting to fall out of the pack a little bit. So yeah, a crucial game like I mentioned. I picked the Force to get the spoon when we did our preseason predictions, which tells you how lowly I rate them. So I'm with you. I'm going to go for the Drua as well, just because I don't think the Force are much of the Force. And we talked about the defense. They led in 55 against the Crusaders. They leaked 40 points against the Reds, even though I think they won, and 44 against the Brumbies as well. So they've got some defensive issues. And you talked about the Drua's try-scoring, attacking abilities. I mean, if they can make some line breaks, rack up some scores.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Drua go in the scrumming department against the Force, because what showed with the Force was that even Moana Pasifika at the time in their first game were dismantling them in the scrum. But then over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've seen that Moana Pasifika's scrum is nothing to be sneezed at. They're a force to be reckoned. They're holding their own and they're doing well to push against some of the bigger guns in this competition. So again, that bar has raised with the advent of Adi Savea with the Moana Pasifika, and I think Fiji Drua have shown over the last few weeks that they're on parity with some of these more established super players as well. So not renowned for their scrummaging, but they're doing better than they have in the last. There's been a few times when they do show glimpses of the old Drua just resting on their laurels, but hopefully they can shore those deficiencies up and decimate the Force, and then put the question mark on the Force's scrum that they still got a lot of work to do. But who knows, the Force might be coming in and trying to prove one or two people wrong as well.
Yeah, good thoughts there. Looks like all good games this weekend, so that's testament to the competition. We're almost done, Rog, so we're up to our TAB account. Just for our listeners, we put a $10 multi on. We'll take a prediction each and chuck $10 on and just see how we go. I know sometimes I catch you off guard with this one, so I'll go first while you think about what you'll contemplate what you want to put your bet on. Well, we talked about this earlier. Macca Springer carved up last week. He was a beast, but I think he'll get selected again. He's a good player.
He got 5. Did he get 4 or 5 tries?
He got five tries. But mate, good on him. 5 tries, but there's levels to this man, and he's played left wing. He's up against Mark Talia on the right, and Mark Talia is a beast. I reckon Mark Talia will give him a bath, and I'll go Mark Talia to get a double this weekend.
Well, just going back to that Cortez Ratama try, Mark Talia got turned inside out by Samipeni before he took off on his 20-metre run. So that's just a side note, but I'm thinking Damien McKenzie, a try anytime.
I feel quite good about this one. This one might be good. Obviously, we're doing this before the teams are named, so we might have to, if they might both be rested or whatever with their rest and rotation policies. But yeah, I feel quite happy about that one. So hopefully they can come through. Is there anything else you want to talk before we close up? We're coming to our final words. Anything else? Other topics you want to discuss?
No, it's again, I believe that the Blues are out of the running already. After just based on the stats, just going off the stats of and the history, and I know history is there to be broken and to be, for other records to come about. But no team other than the Hurricanes have been able to win it. So they've got that on their side. It's the only example that we have of a team winning the championship after the first two losses.
We'll have to do another thing. Has anyone ever lost 4 of their first 5 in what games they won it? Because I'm pretty sure that's never happened there. But yeah, good point. Yeah, we're just about to close up, Rog, mate. So get some final thoughts, some final words from you, just in wrapping up our pod for the week, brother.
I think another exciting round is going to be for us to witness this weekend. Pellegrini, I think he's going to have a good showing to come up against one of the best in the game. And so if D-Mac is playing, Pellegrini's going to be able to showcase his wares. He's coming from the second division in the English Championship as the highest point scorer in the second division there.
Oh, okay.
And so to be thrust into Super Rugby the way that he has, coming off the bench, and instantly I didn't know anything about him. He's a Tongan international player as well, but born and bred in Australia. So, I think he's been an awesome acquisition to Moana, and I think he'll be looking to play the game of his life and to be able to topple the Chiefs. I still believe that the Chiefs will be too good, but despite some of the losses that they've had in the last 5 weeks, Moana Pasifika, coming off a bye round, have shown great glimpses of improvement of the last few years. So I think Pellegrini is going to be someone that they're going to be watching out for in the next few years.
Nice thoughts there, brother. Yeah, I'm with you. I've been impressed with the state of the competition thus far and the quality of the rugby. So the coaches, the rule makers, and the players, they deserve a lot of the credit for how the competition's going. But now, to me, the onus is on the executives and the management and the marketing team and whoever to do their bit to get the crowds back and the buzz back into the game. Because the footy on the field, at least, is good enough to get better crowd numbers and more fan engagement than they have at the moment. So, yeah, I just want to say I hope that happens, particularly here in New Zealand, because you consider that we are a rugby union mad country. So when you see teams like the Warriors, for instance, selling out all their home games, and Auckland FC is doing really well in terms of what they've been able to get in terms of fan numbers and engagement, and then you see pretty average numbers in Super Rugby. That's disappointing when you consider that the rugby itself has been quite good. So, yeah, hopefully they can turn that around. I'm not holding my breath.
The Blues? Are you talking about the Blues season, or are you talking about the game as a whole? It's been a while since we've seen a packed out Eden Park outside of the playoffs, outside of finals.
That's true. That's true.
The last packed, game that I remember at Eden Park was May of 2006.
Gee.
2006.
It does feel like that. It feels like it's been about 20 years. And I should be, doing my bit as well. Like, I don't go to as much games as I used to, just because the atmosphere is not there. And it feels like a waste of time, a waste of money. So I watch all the games
that we used to go down to. You used to leave early when you guys weren't doing so well against the Chiefs. Stace.
Yeah,
you
it's
used
like
to traverse all the way down to Hamilton. I'm not going to name any names, but you were one of them.
Yeah. Oh, like to get my seat in the car, sit in the front. Nah.
Rudy Wolf was playing. Jerome Kiner were playing back then. Scott Robinson was playing for. No, not Scott Robinson. There was a Robinson playing for the Chiefs fullback.
Robbie Robinson.
Robbie Robertson. Robinson, yeah. There's some players.
Yeah. Flashback to the glory days of Super Rugby. So hopefully we can get back to that. Solly Rog, thanks for jumping on us. I think that's us. Appreciate all your knowledge and your stats and everything you bring to the pod, which is always very insightful. So I will say the Counter Ruck is available through our usual podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, many more. So keep listening and don't forget to click the subscribe button. Yeah, thanks again, Rog, brother. We'll be back again soon. Thanks, Cams, as well, who does the editing for us. Cheers, boys.
So far, so far. Chiefs mana.